Mr. Tamiya, second by Mrs. Weiss. All in favor? 5-0. We're going to stand for the pledge, and I would ask everyone after the pledge if they could just remain standing for a moment of silence. Unfortunately, we lost one of Elwood's own, Eric Prado. He was the class of 2005. His mom worked in the district in the cafeteria in the high school for a while. He was lost in a tragic accident, hit by a car. And this was with his wife and his 2-year-old son. And his wife is pregnant, due in June. So I asked, he was a person that went to John Glenn, part of the band, played baseball. Sisters went here, so if we could just remain standing for him as well as for our 41st president, George H.W. Bush, who was just laid to rest tonight in his Texas. So let's stand for the pledge and then we'll
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Please be seated. So I was listening to the funeral of the president the last couple of days, as I'm sure you all were, and one quote from his inaugural address kind of stood out as something that we all try to do in the school community, and he said, "We cannot hope only to leave our children a bigger car, a bigger bank account. We must hope to give them a sense of what it means to be a loyal friend, a loving parent, a citizen who leaves his home, his neighborhood, and his town better than he found it." So I think that not only do we provide academic support to our children, but really trying to raise their awareness about being civil, decent human beings and Americans. So we thank President Bush for that. Can I have a motion, please, to approve the meeting minutes of November 8th? Mrs. Mamalito, second by Mrs. Weiss, all in favor? 5-0. And Dr. Bossert, I'm going to give it to you for accommodations this evening.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Freed. We are pleased to have several accommodations tonight. And forgive my voice, by the way, struggling a bit this evening, and there's a reason why there's space between me on either side of the table. But we're very pleased tonight to have Assemblyman Steve Stern with us. The Assemblyman has recently donated or targeted the district for additional aid that he has the purview under his office to identify priorities within the school districts under his purview to identify financial benefit. And at the last board meeting, the board graciously accepted a donation of $50,000 in targeted aid from the Assemblyman's office. So we asked him to join us tonight so we could formally and publicly thank him for his efforts in securing these funds for the district. As the Assemblyman is well aware, they'll be used for additional security enhancements for our district. We have a number of initiatives that require some additional funding in order for us to complete projects, and $50,000 will go a very long way to help us accomplish those goals. So, Assemblyman, on behalf of myself and the board, we have two members of the board's legislative committee here this evening, Mrs. Tamiya and Mrs. Mamalito, who I know you work closely with, who just all want to formally thank you for this very kind gesture towards our school community.
Mr. Stern, also, it's not just the donation that we receive from your office. You're a regular at these meetings, coming, recognizing our students, and a real support to our district, so we appreciate all your support.
Thank you. Thank you. Not too close to him. Thank you. Good job.
Great.
Trust me, guys. But thank you for this really special recognition. And I look forward to continuing to work together for the outstanding school district and all the wonderful families that we have the privilege to represent. Thank you.
And to go along with service to our school community, I would like to call upon our intermediate principal, Dr. Toscano.
Good evening, everyone. I would like to begin introducing one of our very special members of James H. Boyd Intermediate School, Colin Moshes. The dictionary defines a shining star as that which beams, gives forth a radiant or bright light to beam like a star. Tonight, we honor Colin Moshes as being a shining light. He is the epitome of what good character looks like. Colin's radiant smile and engaging personality has touched the students and the staff at Boyd. He greets everyone with a smile and a positive comment. He even knows everyone's name. Colin is a leader in the classroom and the hallways. He is a friend to all of his classmates and shows sincere happiness for them when things are going well, and empathy when they are feeling very sad. Colin is a whiz at math computation and can finish a multiplication challenge in 2 minutes. Colin is a superb oral reader. He projects his voice and reads with such expression. The whole class is delighted to hear him read aloud. He is also our resident disc jockey, yes? Yes. He knows current artists like Counting Crows and Justin Timberlake, as well as Johnny Cash, Dad, Grandpa, the Beach Boys, and the Beatles. He has the whole class singing. Colin serves as our class representative on the student council and is a member of our cooking club, our friendship club, and our sports club. Colin truly shines and brings joy and enthusiasm to the James H. Boyd always. Thank you for being an exceptional role model for the rest of the students to follow. Teachers, do you want to come up and make a picture better?
Colin, I have a certificate for you, and I have a story for you. Do you remember the day I was in your classroom and I took your picture because you had a t-shirt on that I really liked? Do you remember what it said? I don't either. But I tweeted it, and then I got a report at the end of the month that that was my most liked picture of the month. Was the picture of you.
That's why.
You are. This is for you.
Thank you.
And I think Assemblyman Stern has a certificate for you.
You have 19 million neighbors all throughout the state of New York that with this certificate say congratulations and keep on shining.
I'm going to put you on the website if that's okay with you.
This first for the website?
Yes.
Miss Good ready, Miss Banner? Actually, it's called one.
All right, so everyone look at me first. It's going to be on the main page of the website. Ready, 1, 2, 3. One more, please. Awesome. Good job. Just one.
Take your award. Oh, thank you. She's amazing. Thank you for sharing it with us. Thank you.
Wow.
Yeah, follow that.
Poor Mr. Green.
Tonight, we would also like to honor and recognize Mrs. Magrino. Lisa Magrino is being recognized for the excellent job that she has done for her service in Elwood, but most recently, her service as the Teachers College lead teacher for the past 2.5 years. This position involves attending out-of-district professional development with other lead teachers on the island, and you have volunteered above and beyond in your performance. Not only have you gone to these meetings, but you've come back, you've shared the materials and taught your fellow teachers. You shared them in drives, you shared them in files, you come in and you demo for teachers in their classroom. For the past 2 superintendent conference meetings, you have come and you've presented to your class, to your fellow teachers, and I've seen the hours it takes for you to make videos of your own classrooms to present the information. I always knew what a great job you were doing, but not until the moment when they said, we love her. Can she be our professional developer? We don't need somebody to come, we have her. And that to me is the epitome of teacher leadership. So we would just like to thank you for helping us build our practice, being part of our family, and being a teacher leader. Thank you, Lisa Magrino.
Thank you.
Come on, Mom.
Come on, Mom.
Very special when moms come to the meetings.
Okay, how old you are?
Hi guys, I'm here over. I know it's a podium. Ready, 1, 2, 3. What do you do for a living?
Have you spent a day with me?
Thank you. Mrs. Magrino, we were at a curriculum meeting the other day, and Mrs. Theodorellis was there, and we were talking about implementing some of the things in the classroom, and she used you as an example about how you show the videos and come into the classroom and model behavior. So it was really nice to hear from one of your colleagues, and in a setting that's not so formal, about what you're doing for the teachers. So thank you. I really appreciate it.
That's a very nice way to start the meeting. Motion to adjourn.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, we can't blow Annie off. All right, Miss Annie Song, come up and give us your student liaison report. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm happy to be back on behalf of the student body reporting what's been happening within the last month in Elwood. Let's jump right into it. At Harley, thanks to the Booster Club, district funding, the collaboration of our lovely school psychologist, and the dedicated work from the maintenance team, the new Sensory City is the ultimate super space for students to release their classroom wiggles. The new space will provide an interactive outlet for ANSI students and make them more available and ready to learn. Additionally, the November Knights of Harley are Adriana Polito, a kindergartner from Mrs. Mancinelli's class, Fawad Malik, a first grader from Miss Lane's class, and Kalia Borjak, a second grader from Miss Shapiro's class. The Harley hallway renovations have gone underway, and 2 hallways, Diversity Drive and Knightley Way, were beautifully transformed. Sportsmanship Way is almost completed, and the last 3 hallways will undergo transformations within the next few months. On November 15th, Boyd celebrated Elwood Cranberry Day. Students excitedly put their STEM skills towards innovative activities, which included the use of cranberries. Some of the activities included measuring the distance a fresh cranberry can bounce, assembling structurally sound toothpick and cranberry towers, and stimulating a cranberry bog. You can also watch the day's activities on the district website. Just this week, the middle school hosted their 6th grade winter concert, while the 7th and 8th grade concert will be on Wednesday, December 11th. The annual EMS National Junior Honor Society Food Drive collected an astounding 2,200 non-perishable items, which were donated to the Community Food Council in Huntington Station. And to top it off, an additional $1,000 was collected to give families of the Elwood community gift cards for Thanksgiving and Christmas. A great time for this introduction to Glen, as the building is buzzing with energy. Just this afternoon, the high school held their annual Head Start Party. Run by the freshman class and attended by volunteers of all grade levels, this event was a fantastic showing of the kind spirit and dedication to give back instilled in our John Glenn High School students. Tomorrow will be the high school music department's Barnes & Noble performance and fundraiser at East Northport from 4 to 9 p.m. Stop by to enjoy the incredible talent of some of our select music groups, pick up some holiday gifts to support our music program, and to take one thing off your busy schedule this crazy holiday season, you can have your gifts wrapped by the members of the music department. Saturday morning from 9 to 12, the high school will be having the PTSA Children's Holiday Party, complete with crafts, snacks, and even a meeting with Santa, Mrs. Claus, Frosty, and some trusted elves. The holiday party is sure to be an exciting morning. In addition, Glen will have a holiday spirit week starting on the 17th, which includes Christmas Sweater Day and Pajama Day. On Wednesday the 12th, the orchestra and chorus will be having their winter concert with band performing on the following week on December 18th. All these groups have worked long and hard to prepare, and we wish them nothing but luck in their performances. There will be another college information night in the high school auditorium on December 13th. John Glenn is working hard to provide support and guidance through this stressful and complex process. The halfway mark of the second quarter is rapidly approaching, with progress reports being posted to the portal on December 14th. And in case you missed the live head assembly on November 14th, a recording can be found on the website or on the district YouTube channel. At Glenn, we are always preparing students for the future, both near and far. On December 12th, a course selection video will be played in homeroom, in addition to the Naviance email and video posted to the website. This provides the opportunity for students to discuss course selection with their parents, view teacher recommendations, and bring course selection sheets to be reviewed during counseling meetings. Course selection sheets will be due on the 17th for freshmen, 18th for sophomores, and the 19th for juniors. Glenn is lucky to have many incredible students and teachers to commend for their achievements. Our Noble Knight of November, Eileen Fucci, passed the title to Joe Cushy, a beloved, hardworking, and witty math teacher. Elizabeth Choi, a violin extraordinaire, performed in the All-National Symphony Orchestra in Disney. And additionally, our lovely vocalists, Mackenzie Chaikin, Felipe Gonzalez, and Melissa Mendel, participated in the Nisma All-State Choir. We also honor Girl Scout Troop 2598 and 282, as they just received their Silver Award. Asaya Bell, Abigail Rothletter, Madison Slasinski, Bridget Colleen Fitzgerald, Sarah Heenley, Ashley Keevan, Katrina Theologides, Omolola Adewale, Julie K. Hito, and Anna Zambuto, the community thanks you for your dedication to those serving around you. Rithika Narayan, a current member of the Institute of Creative Problem Solving, exercised serious brain power in the Harvard-MIT math tournament, which only draws about 1,000 of the most talented and gifted high school mathematicians from around the world. Lastly, I'd like to recognize Nia Searle for making the first All-Long Island volleyball team. Nia also achieved the All-State title, Newsday Suffolk County Player of the Year, Suffolk County Outstanding Senior Award, League MVP, and Suffolk County Elite 8. Congratulations to Mia and the incredible legacy she leaves behind. Winter sports are progressing wonderfully, and it's no surprise that we have some of the best athletes. With that said, I'd like to recognize our seniors who have committed to playing for college next year. Mia Sansanelli, a stellar soccer player, will attend Sacred Heart University. Mia Sergel, a stunner volleyball athlete, Bryant University. Alyssa Adamides, a talented basketball player at Delphi University. Cassidy Evans, a marvelous lacrosse player at Binghamton University. Jesse J. Lindemann, an outstanding soccer player at Bloomsburg University. Justin Tiernan, an esteemed lacrosse player at Lehigh. And Peter Brankovic, an impressive lacrosse player at Manhattan College. With so much to do in this time of year, I wish everyone a safe and healthy rest of the month. Thank you so much for your time and attention. Happy holidays, and I hope everyone is able to enjoy friends, family, and maybe even a little bit of rest in the weeks to come.
Annie, happy holidays to you. Thanks for the update. It's a lot of information in a short period of time.
Can I just clarify one thing on her report? The children's party on Saturday is from 9 to 11:30.
Oh,
So make sure nobody comes at 12 o'clock.
Okay. Noted.
It is bedtime, guys.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
You left just ahead of my invitation to do so.
Is that, what's Colin's sister's name? Arden? Bye, Arden.
Thank you very much for all that you do.
I'm gonna be out. They told you to show the whole family, okay?
Annie, I'm just going to ask that your next report be a little more thorough and complete. Thank you very much.
Good job.
And are you going to go home and watch this live?
Good night.
I've actually broadcasted to my whole family. No, but we're gonna make sure you guys out in the home, like,
Sorry, guys.
Oh, my goodness.
So you can move up, have a seat. We're going to get our,
I'm going to pretend that they're all watching from home.
the people are riveted at home right now, Dr. Bosser. You have no idea.
To our community at large.
So take it over.
To our community at large, I would like to wish a very happy holiday season, and certainly to those folks celebrating the 5th night of Hanukkah tonight. May your year be filled with light. I can tell you that the Tomeo house was filled with light this week, as Francesca Bell joined us on the 1st of December at exactly the stroke of 12 noon. Is that correct? At 6 pounds, 10 ounces, 19 and a half inches long. Home today, healthy and happy. Congratulations to Jane.
Class of what, James?
Yes. 36.
Wow.
I asked Dr. Foster, because she was born December 1st, and she moved the cutoff of class of 36 or 37.
She was born on the kindergarten cutoff date, so A, she makes it, and B, we can have a conversation down the line.
She's 36 or 37, depending on how smart she is. She'll be 36, she'll be 36.
But I am certain she will be the princess in your home. So congratulations, congratulations.
Well, Chris was bumped to queen.
So, to cover the business at hand, recently I met with members of the Legislative Committee of the Board, which is Mr. Tomeo and Mrs. Mamalito, and we reviewed the legislative priorities for the year. And they are there for the public to be distributed and on the website. Now, what we did was we paralleled the priorities that had been established by the, it's really odd to be talking to yourself, the Suffolk County Council of School Superintendents Legislative Committee, of which I serve, and then we added some things that we thought were unique to Elwood and prioritized by our own committee. So they're here for your review. We'll make sure they're featured on the website so that the district residents know what our focus will be as we progress through the year. But just to quickly review with the board, we continue our focus on school safety. We recently held a meeting of district officials where we reviewed the audit that was completed last year. We noted our progress in certain areas, created goals moving forward, and really identified some areas of focus within that audit. But we're very happy at the progress that's been made in this area. And one area of advocacy that we are particularly pleased with has been the addition of a school resource officer assigned to the district. Now, Fiorello had been our school resource officer for the last several years, and he's outstanding in the field. He's actually the SRO that trains the other SROs. And we love Drew. But Drew had been spread very thin, shared between a large number of districts. So his territory was cut in half. And Officer Thomas Arana Wolf is now assigned to the Elwood School District and has been a visible presence since he was assigned to the district. He has spent numerous days with us since his assignment began. He was with us just yesterday, just assessing our needs. And one of the things that he has committed to is being a visible presence in our schools. It's helpful that he establishes relationships with our students and faculty. It's helpful that he becomes more knowledgeable about the leadership, the practices, the drills that we conduct, and also that he's just a visible presence as a deterrent to anyone who may seek to do harm in our facilities. So we're very happy to welcome Officer Wolf, and he's been a great addition. And part of that, the expansion of the SRO program is due to the advocacy efforts within the county for the expansion of the program. And there is a class of officers being trained right now that will expand the program even further. So we're very happy to see that, and that was the first legislative priority we've committed to and we will continue to advocate for. Another is for sustainable and predictable school funding. As the board is well aware, there is a school foundation aid formula that exists that is not implemented. Every year we have to do our best guesswork as to the amount of state aid we'll be receiving. And as you know, a fluctuation of just a few small percentage points can have a great impact on what we're able to provide to our community. So we're looking for a more predictable and sustainable formula. Another priority is just maintaining the high quality of education and really having the resources to do so. Our population, not only in Elwood, but across Long Island, is changing. The fastest growing population is our English language learners. And the number of students in poverty in both our district and in the county has grown tremendously. So we're talking about making sure there is resources in place so that we can provide these children who have different needs the education that they deserve. Supporting shifts in student need is another priority, and again, that's about the increase in poverty and English language learners and making sure that we develop programs and initiatives to support them specifically. And then lastly, one that was added to the priorities of the Suffolk County School Superintendents is the continued focus on using schools as a polling place. As the board is aware, we do not have a choice in whether or not elections are held within our facilities. That's dictated by the Board of Elections. And it makes very little sense to anyone that we disrupt our practices and the security procedures we have on election day in multiple facilities. Very often for election day, special elections, primaries, 3 or 4 of our school buildings are used. The fact that we must use both the middle school and the high school as polling places makes no logistical sense to me whatsoever. So we're looking for more authority as a school district to dictate some of the spaces and times we use the election. For the board and for the community, we've tightened the ship quite a bit. We really restrict the areas that voters can access and how they access them. So, and we increase our security supervision on election days tremendously. And as you know, we hold conferences on election day itself. But we do not have the ability or flexibility to close each time there's an election held. So we really need to tighten our resources. So we're looking for flexibility in helping to govern the Board of Elections a bit, which every other municipality enjoys other than school districts. If the Board of Election wants to use a fire department for an election process, the fire department needs to give the consent. Same for a Knights of Columbus Hall, a church, a temple. We do not have the ability to say no thank you. We're the only entity that doesn't enjoy that right or privilege. So we'll continue to advocate for it. Questions?
Oh yeah, just a quick question. Do we get any sort of financial reimbursement for use of a facility?
Not according to the board's facilities use policy. The Board of Election has a reimbursement procedure that they will reimburse us for some costs of security and facilities use, but it's not in line with the board policy. It's a policy they adopt countywide and reimburse us to their policy.
Okay. So I'll let Jerry do that.
Mm-hmm. So in addition, as part of the superintendent's report, I wanted to share with the community that we have a board that has unilaterally committed to their own development as board members and the expansion of their own knowledge base. I've worked with many board members as both superintendent and assistant superintendent, and there's been varying acceptance of going to conferences, going to workshops. The fact that now 2 years in a row we've had 100% attendance by each of our board members at the workshops offered by NYSBA, not only in the annual conference but the other workshops that come up during the year, is very impressive to me. And I wanted to commend and thank each of our 5 board members for participating in the most recent NYSBA convention in New York City. It wasn't an easy task. It was a very well attended workshop in the middle of Manhattan in less than ideal circumstances. I will say that I think the convention was over sponsored. There were more people than there were seats available in many of the workshops. And the board really had to navigate some difficult circumstances, not only just Manhattan traffic, to do what they needed to do. But our board was committed, they were there, and they sat through what I think were some very valuable experiences. And I know the board wanted to share with each other in the community a bit some of your takeaways from that experience.
Thank you, Dr. Vassar. So I think maybe we'll just go down the line and just give a brief takeaway. I know you sit in a 2-day conference and there's a lot of information thrown at you, but even professionally, I'm sure you all agree, you walk away from a conference and you have 1 or 2 takeaways that you say, wow, that could change my practice. So if we could just go down the line and just give maybe a brief takeaway so that the community knows what we're working on. Mrs. Marcus.
I realized that the 2 takeaways were the first session I attended and the last session I attended, so that's kind of interesting. Maybe I lost concentration in between. 2 things that I really enjoyed, whenever anybody is presenting about any level of differentiated education or individualized education, I'm always interested in it and I love hearing about it. So actually the 2 examples that I'm taking away are from an elementary setting and from a high school setting. So the first one is out in Malvern for their K through 5 students. They've started Mission Explore, which is adding a 9-period day through K through 5. And I love the 9-period day in the middle school, so again, I was interested in this. What they were finding problematic or lacking in their program as it was lack of collaborative time for teachers. They had a high number of pullouts that were missing in classroom time for personalized extra help. And then just kind of some of the elements that many teachers lament losing. Time for free play, cursive, literature, extra things like that. So what they did is they added the 9-period day for the 9th period to be a time of collaboration for teachers, enrichment for students who needed the enrichment, and a designated support period for those students that needed support. And then that's when they would do things like add in a new class like a cursive writing class or a STEM class or arts in that enrichment period. So then the students who would need the support would get pulled out less from the day-to-day, which was helpful for them and their teachers. And then they also included a period explore in that 9-period day, so 2 days a week, that 9th period would be this explore period, which I would say is similar to using our makerspace. So that was the elementary takeaway. And then the high school was from a district, and I can't totally remember if it was middle school and high school. I think it's just high school. But the takeaway was from Irvington School District in Westchester. And something that they were doing was basically a student grant writing process. So they were saying, we want to give our students voice, choice, and agency, doing something on their own volition and themselves. And I likened it just casually to the Elwood Endowment grant process that we have here. It was similar to that, but for the high school students themselves. So they had to be involved in grant writing, pitching their projects. Not everybody is accepted into the program, and then it would be funded either privately or by a fundraising venture. You would get mentored by faculty or community members. It was something that the entire Irvington community came and really embraced. So everyone was participating in it. Whether it was somebody wanting to not just act in a play, but write their own student play and put it on, not just in the auditorium, but at a local venue. Another thing that I thought neat, and I'll end with this, 2 boys, were really into weather. They got all of the weather technology, that was what their grant was for, to track all the weather. They ended up having, like the #1 weather website in Westchester, one of those little local awards. But this is a chance for these kids that want to do something independent and a little bit farther to really have a passion project that really manifests into something very real. And I just thought that was exciting.
So I sat in on that same session, And, the great thing about these conferences, and Dr. Bosser elaborated, there was a little frustration because they're planned so well in advance. We get an app, we go there, we look at what we want to do, we review the handouts, we try to be diverse in the process so that we're each learning something different, so we bring something back to the table. And the frustration of getting there and realizing that opportunity is not there and having to shift is frustrating, but it also is, it's looking at the glass as, half full and realizing that, we sat in this session, we wouldn't have sat in, we sat in because the other sessions were closed out. And it was a wonderful opportunity, which is something also is that we get to glean from what other districts do. And the thing with Irvington, there were 2 points that I'm going to elaborate on what Becky had said was, the principal at Irvington, we talk a lot about project-based learning and about what goes on when our students leave here going to the next level. In the outside world, there isn't going to be a review sheet to answer a problem or to solve a solution, and that's what they were trying to bring back to the students, to helping them kind of come up with, well, what is a solution to a problem that you envision or something that you would see, whether it's designing a small house, whether it was designing that weather system. It's engaging the students into a mindset that is a different level of enrichment and differential learning. And what they did was they took a process that they already had, which was the Booster Club or the endowment, and they said, you know what, why is it only one sector of our community that's pushing this forward? Why isn't it what the basis of the community that we're trying to enrich and move forward, which is the students? This was it's a great opportunity. It was one of the best sessions, I think, that we both sat in, and we talked about it afterwards, and it was a blast session on that. But another thing that they brought up, and we've discussed this before, was when the seniors, having the seniors do an internship or have an opportunity to have a growth internship between the point of APs and graduation. And I think, Julie, we've discussed this as a board, we've talked about it. They actually do it in Irvington. So it was very interesting to hear them and how they engage and develop a network with local businesses, and being able to, they are like us, they're about 45 minutes from Manhattan. And so they reach out to the, financial people in their community and the, business people and get that network. And that is something that I was very interested in. I think we're all passionate about doing that and offering our kids that opportunity. So with that said, I think that is, just wonderful. Another thing I was really privileged to get to go to was a pre-convention. And it was communicating under pressure. Kind of a little different than what I thought was going to be, and it was how social media interacted. But the presentation was started by the superintendent of the Sandy Hook School District. And so she went into the actual account of what happened. It was very riveting, with a point and with a goal. And it's, you never plan for this kind of a thing to happen, but to have a plan in place or a generic plan that you can act in. When you think about the things that you do in your normal life, that you practice them so often that that when it happens, you can just immediately do. And that's what kind of she brought up, having resources, having a building that was totally inoperable and not having communication. We have that because we've established with our local police department, thanks to Dr. Bossert, that we have a notification system. So, but these things that come to warehousing, how to get around the community, being able to communicate through social media, having a person as a point person to really communicate inaccurate information that was going wildly across. So going forward with that, I'm going to hand over there's a whole handout of, I actually took mine by accident, of resources, and I'm going to hand it over to the safety, both you guys, to the safety community, so that safety committee, so that you guys can really look at it, look at the resources, because it was really interesting, the kinds of the day-to-day things that she would have done differently, and I'm sure you see that now too, going forward. also, they started to talk, we had these younger people come in, and the thing with Generation X is that, and this goes to the next thing with the Parkland, I tried to earmark a kind of like 3 different things, but one of the things was the safety, because I felt that's really important in the community now. So we went to this active shooter seminar, and one of the things they talked about, and it relates back to this community, communication under pressure, was that kids in this particular generation, whereas we had an emergency, my generation, we would call 911. In Parkland and in this generation, they were all on Instagram and Snapchatting that there was an active shooter going on. So we have to recognize that in this day and age, we're communicating on a different platform than previous generations, and we need to learn how to navigate that. And that was the second part of this communicating workshop, was how to navigate this social media where we have people that actually are directing us. We've had many instances where something has exploded on Facebook, or we're very lucky, we're very fortunate that we have a very calm and board meetings. We haven't had board meetings that go out of control, but they're talking about how to navigate that and how to be the steer of the ship.
Keep it calm, you two.
Keep it calm. So, I brought up some points with that. It's funny because they talked about developing an open Facebook. And I think everybody at my table just looked at them and said, "Are you crazy? Why would we ever do that?" So, a lot of good points. But
Yeah,
yeah,
it sounds like you got a lot out of it.
yeah, very overall.
Thank you, Mrs. Weiss.
So I always find these conventions really productive and fruitful. Last year I found myself heavily focused on school finance, budget, capital bond projects. And this year, with the ever increasing concerns of mental health, I found myself focusing more on mental health issues, mindfulness, and social emotional learning. A few of the workshops that I attended were things focusing on fostering positive relationships within the school district, ranging from human resources to recruiting qualified staff, positive communications, positive board relationships, all fostering high academic standards and setting the overall tone for long-term excellence. Mindfulness is like this word that we hear about. It's this thing, but it has no real definition. What is it? So much fun sitting and learning about mindfulness. The mental health issues in school, interesting fact, there's 45 million students in the US, and 46% of those students at some point in their life will experience a mental health disorder. That is a staggering fact. So, again, we are implementing many things here to, additional guidance counselors, additional psychologists. So we are on the right path and doing many good things in addressing that, but much more that we will eventually do down the road. Let's see, positive climate, school climate out, and one of the most interesting is the last presentation that we went to. It was called The Living Classroom in Your Community, and Hampton Bays has a program where they engage the community once a month by honoring community veterans. So to me, we do that, and actually the middle school is doing that tomorrow, which was implemented a few years ago, which is a great event. But it's nice that every month they bring in different people from the community and engage people that don't otherwise have children living in their homes. So, just for instance, they're building this big community right next to the high school, and I think there were some really great ideas about how we can engage those people that will not have school-age children living in their school district, and foster a relationship where, they buy into our school, they will support our schools, and they'll know what's really going on. Another great thing that they brought up was they attend local realtor association meetings. So, we just got this great blue ribbon designation that is great for our home values. Let the realtors know what we're doing here in Elwood, how fantastic we really are. Just, great ideas from there that, obviously we'll talk more about, that I'd like to really investigate bringing to Elwood. So that's really it. I'll keep it brief.
Excellent, thank you.
Brief.
Tell me.
More brief. You could go on and on and on.
It's a new dad talking.
It's very true. Could go on and on. It's very, as everyone said prior, it was a really great learning experience last year, this year. It's so many takeaways. Interesting to get there, and we're a little old Elwood, but you get there and there's, you find some random district up in Poughkeepsie, and you don't know their district either. They don't know ours, and you start seeing familiar faces. Day one, it's like everyone's new. Day two, you start seeing the same guy looking for the same information as I was on fundraising. All of a sudden, we're sitting on 3 different, meetings and lectures to find out different ways to generate revenue for the district, unique ways, out-of-the-box ideas. And we get there, and we're sitting in the lobby saying, "Oh, it's so easy. We'll just, slap a banner up. We'll bring in Subway. We can do, to generate money." And you start going through these lectures, and you realize, oh wait, there's New York State education laws, there's regulations. You're not allowed to do this. You're not allowed to do that. So one of my biggest takeaways was just that. We sat through a wonderful lecture, and the gentleman was nice enough to stay after his presentation for an hour and a half to answer individualized questions. And I wanted to stay through the whole thing because they were really, really good questions. And there was a gentleman who brought up, so our school has the senior privilege, and their district has senior privilege. And he was asking a question to the gentleman, how do you get the kids to not go into the privilege and entice them to eat healthy and have a good type of food in the cafeteria? And this district wanted to bring in every other day. They brought in Chipotle on Mondays. They had, and so and they worked with these different businesses in the community, and the businesses wound up doing, a sponsorship back to the school district. So Chipotle was generating, say, $10,000 a month from the district. They were giving back $1,000 in a grant to the district. So all of a sudden, they had all of these grant monies coming back from local businesses, and it was, little Johnny was now working at Chipotle after school. It was really trying to build a sense of community in this little town. And to me, that was one of the greatest takeaways, because Elwood's a little town. We're always trying to think of ways to generate money, but obviously stay within compliance and within the New York State regulations. So that was definitely something that was great for me. And I always enjoy walking away from the tables, learning that we're not the only school district out there that faces these problems. Small, big, medium, the richest of the rich. We all face a common thread. We always can use more money, and we always put students first. And everybody that was at the conference, that was the common thread. We care about our students. We don't have the funding to help the students. How can we generate the money? So I went to several different lectures, but the 3 that I went to touch upon this, and those are my greatest takeaways. And I'm looking forward to working with the facilities committee and other committees to try to bring additional revenue to our district and have the students and the community a part of the process. I think that would be wonderful. Really took a lot of work. Thank you.
Interesting. So you thanked us for coming to the conference, and I thank you for motivating us to go to the conference. Oh, right. Next year it's in Rochester. That's going to need a lot of motivation.
A lot.
And a special thanks to Mary Lou for organizing our lives the entire time we were in the conference. We got a play-by-play a couple of days before we left, saying this is where we check in, this is where we're having dinner, this is who you have to meet at what time, and it was very useful. It went in the travel folder, and you just had to whip that out, and it was really organized and helpful, so I want to give a little shout out to Mary Lou, as always, keeps us on our toes. So like you, Heather, I last year had a different focus, and then this year really concentrated on the new mental health standards being implemented in New York State. So in these conferences you go around and you listen to what different people are doing. And some people are really well into this already, and then some of the questions that the audience was asking, you could tell they haven't even really put their toe in the water yet. So I think one good takeaway is I always felt like, oh, either we're doing that or we're planning on doing that. So that felt good. you know, in every instance. Not all my conferences, not all my little sessions concentrated on that, but every session that I went to, I didn't say, oh gosh, we're experts at that, but I said, oh yeah, we're talking about that, or we already started that and we have a plan, or we already do that and we do it well. So that felt good. When listening to the presentations on mental health, one of the takeaways that I had, I went and listened to this speaker from upstate New York, Western New York, and they had a whole mindfulness program that has been in place for about 4 years. So they were well ahead and had one person who took care of the whole district and just was amazing. Had been their social worker, I believe, and then they just developed this role to do this. So they were really interesting in that they presented the survey of their students. What percentage of their students have experienced a major trauma? What percentage of their students have experienced depression, anxiety? Who uses alcohol? Who, all these things that came out in student surveys. And they start surveying their students about their mental health issues in 3rd grade. With conversation in 3rd grade, and then it kind of goes up the chain. So I said, Dr. Bossert and I have had this conversation before, like, we're putting these things in place, but we don't really ask our students what's going on in their life. We don't ask them, how many of you, and they said, listen, in all these surveys, you're really getting a little peek at a national statistic. They always pretty much match the like Heather said, 46% will have some kind, but really over 50% of them will have a depressive episode in high school. So it's very interesting, and the results that they get usually match national results. And so my question to them was, well, how do the parents feel about you asking students, and they're like, you must be from Long Island. I'm like, okay. And they said, because our whole area does that. It's just a practice. We do it, we get the results, we come away with what students are going through, and then we target our interventions based upon what students tell us. So that was one of my takeaways, that I thought we need to start talking about this, and we already started talking about it, so we have our toe in the water there for sure. Probably your foot. Okay. So that was one of the things that I thought, well, we're putting a lot of interventions in place, but are we really asking students what they need and what they're going through? The other thing that was sort of a takeaway from that particular district, and I know, Dr. Hull, you're already working with staff, was that they started with staff. What can this do for them in their life? So that and that took 2 years. What can this practice of grounding yourself and not expecting too much from yourself do for you personally? So that, and just like you, they didn't force anybody to do it, but it just became kind of a chain reaction once other teachers started talking about it and getting into it. She said, they had a funny analogy. They said that the amygdala is where all your emotions are in your brain, which is sort of at your brainstem. So they have this thing that here's the amygdala and here's your spinal cord. And if you're only acting with this, you're just walking away, around with your feelings, and your frontal cortex is up here, and you need to go like this and figure out. And from K to 12, they have this, are you here? Are you here? Are you here? Are you here? One of the parents gave a funny analogy and said, what's my Amelia Bedelia? My kindergarten's talking that I'm acting with my Amelia Bedelia. So it was funny, but there's all different ways. Then I had some things that Dr. Hull and I already discussed, but that was pretty much a lot of my takeaway was the mental health things. And I think that's it. You want to update us?
I do, and thank you all for again, your dedication to investing the time and the time away from your families to engage in this type of professional development. Yes, it will be a strong effort on my part to convince you to do the same in Rochester for the 100th anniversary of the NISBA convention, but that's where it is, and we can make reservations now if you'd like. But my takeaway, and I think some of the valuable time was not necessarily within the workshops, but the time we got to spend together as a board, because I definitely heard some commonalities, and some of them have come through in your reports about the conference. And this is a board that I think is not unique, but certainly candid in not being afraid to expose areas of need or growth of the district, and not being afraid to talk about things that we need to address and to spend more time with. And one of my takeaways from the conference was this board is in line with the administration of really wanting to invest time in the mental health and well-being of our students. And this is not a board that has made test scores a priority or is looking for specifics on certain curriculum initiatives. You are looking at the whole picture, and you are looking at the whole child, and you are looking at the whole package. And when you charge the administration with planning programs, it's with that in mind. So, because of that bravery that you show on behalf of the community, we've already followed up on that universal screening instrument that we discussed at the conference. And this will come as news to the 5 administrators in the room, but just yesterday, I replied to an email from the State Education Department that we would participate in the school climate survey next year. Not every district does that because not everyone wants to see the data. But the type of questions and the type of evaluation that Mrs. Freed is speaking of that was reviewed at the conference, we will be doing beginning at the elementary level next year in the Elwood School District. And we will get the state's data and see what the norms are, but as part of that we will be able to review our own data. And some of those difficult questions are asked, and it is completed anonymously, and students should feel that they can be candid and share with us their thoughts, their perspectives, and parents can give us their thoughts and perspectives on how we're doing as a district. And we'll learn about students' experimentation with alcohol or drugs. We'll talk about students who come to school and may not feel safe in their environment, and that might be data that might be frightening to us, it might be enlightening to us, but it's real. And we'll have it and start asking those tough questions and dealing with those difficult answers next year. So more than the foot in the door, Mrs. Freed.
Thank you. It was interesting because this district was also a very small district, and they thought when they handed out this survey, not in our town. It's not going to be anything like, our town's different, and, we know we have some problems, but the vast majority of our kids are happy. And, they were right in line.
Something happened this week that really was profound for me, that I've shared with the board, but I'll share publicly. I received an email from a parent who is the troop leader for a Scouts, Boy Scouts. And one of the things they were doing was a cleanup of our local community. So last year, when they were doing the cleanup, the boys were really taken aback by the amount of drug paraphernalia they found in the vicinity of our schools. Evidence of drug use, baggies that perhaps contained heroin and things like that. And they were really kind of taken aback by finding this so close to our school facilities and the quantity that they did. So a year later, just this past weekend, they were conducting the same cleanup and found no evidence of any drug paraphernalia or anything like they had found the year before. Now, the parent who was the troop leader was very kind in sending an email saying, we have noted the initiatives happening in each of the schools, whether it was the Ugly Truth presentation or the recent presentations by Lighead at the high school that Mr. Brzezinski brought in. And the parent was giving credit to the fact that the school has made substance abuse prevention a priority, to the fact that they found less evidence or no evidence of that type of abuse in and around our schools. Now listen, I'm not naive. I don't believe for a second that because we brought in these programs that there's no students and no members of our community experimenting with illegal drugs. I'm not naive. But what was most profound to me was that the parent made a connection between the initiatives the school is making with a positive change in the community. And that's why we do what we do, and that's why we'll continue to do what we do. And even if the students or children or adults that are engaging in this type of drug abuse are hesitant to do it near our schools, that's a good start. That's a good start. So that was really a very positive exchange, and the big takeaway for me is that members of the community see that what we do as a district has an impact on what we see in the community. So that was the feel-good moment of the week. Motion to adjourn.
Well, we're up to our first resident remark. I'll read the paragraph. No. Seeing no residents, I won't read the paragraph. We are up to presentations, and I'm going to invite Dr. Hull, Mrs. Brzezinski, and Mrs. Kelly Gorman. We are getting an update on the advanced placement program, so this is where you really want to watch the presentation now, because we've got some exciting news to share with the community.
While they're setting up, I will remind the board that Ms. Dunkel is not present this evening, as she is partaking in a very select leadership academy sponsored by the School Business Officials Association up in Albany. But I can tell you exactly what she's doing at this moment.
Watching.
She is watching the live stream of our board meeting. So Ms. Dunkel, we hope you're having a wonderful time in Albany. And now is the highlight of our evening event.
Albany vacation announcement.
Good evening. Thank you for this opportunity to speak to you about our advanced placement program. As we visit our buildings and we visit our classrooms, we have a sense that there are some very good things happening. But it's really important that we get verification of that. And that's, I think, one of the reasons why the Blue Ribbon has meant so much. It really speaks to the fine things that are happening for students. And when, as an administrative team and with our faculty, we review the College Board results, again, we were really pleased to have good news of verification that the things that we believe are happening that are benefiting students are demonstrated in their achievement. So the College Board offers the Advanced Placement Program, which are really college-level curriculum, college-level exams. The goal is for students to challenge themselves, to experience learning typical to a first year of college. It is more difficult coursework, it is more involved, it is more challenging than our regular high school classes. It also requires specialized training for our teachers, and there is a lot that goes into supporting a successful AP program and growing the program and continuing to add courses that meet all different areas of interest for students. So over the last few years, we have been working with an open enrollment process where we are allowing students to use data, meet with their guidance counselor, speak with their parents, and make choices about where they want to challenge themselves rather than having a hard and fast criteria in order for them to participate. So a lot of questions have arisen through this process throughout these last 4 years. How do we meet the needs of the learners in the room as we have these different types of students engaging in the work? And is it achieving success for students? How are the students who would typically be in AP faring in a more mixed ability grouping? And so we look to the data for some of those answers. So this evening, Mrs. Brzezinski and Mrs. Kelly Dorman are going to take us through some very specific data. And so Mrs. Brzezinski, why don't you help us get started?
Thank you, Dr. Hull. Good evening, everyone. I am proud to share with you this evening the success that our students have achieved since the district embarked on adopting the open enrollment philosophy in 2015. It makes sense, it's good for kids, and the work that we've had to do to bring it along has been met with great success. And again, I'm proud to present the data points to you this evening so you can see the great success that our students have had over the past 4 years. So if you look at this slide, you will see that I would like to identify that since open enrollment, which is indicated in the blue column, 2015 was its first year of implementation, our enrollment at the high school has been on the decline. So it has declined 12%, yet the number of students enrolled in AP classes has increased 28%. Furthermore, the number of exams that our students are taking has increased by 37%, looking at 436 students to 597. Additionally, of those students taking the exams, the number of students earning scores of 3, 4, or 5 has increased 32%. And then when you look at the total number of students getting a 3, 4, and 5 out of the students taking the exam, 89% of our students are earning 3, 4, or 5, which is making them eligible for a possible college credit. As we drill down more deeply, this slide demonstrates that, as is expected with increasing the number of students taking AP courses, the number of students earning a score of 3 has increased. Notably, as we continue to expand the number of students taking an AP class, the number of students earning at the highest level of 5 has also increased. Just last year, 122, and in 2018, 149. It is also important to highlight, once again, that our students have significantly outperformed students across the state and global level. 89% of John Glenn students have earned a 3 or higher on the exams, compared to 64% of the students at the state level and 61% of the students globally. This slide highlights another impressive gain in the number of students earning AP Scholar distinction. As you can see, in 2018, of the 249 students achieving a 3, 4, or 5 on their exams, 120 of them were recognized as AP Scholars, which equates to 48%. This is another area that we would like to celebrate. To celebrate with us is the College Board. Once again, we have been commended by the College Board and have earned status on the 8th Annual College Board Honor Roll for simultaneously achieving increases in access to advanced placement courses for a broader number of students while maintaining or improving the rate at which our students earn a score of 3 or higher. Now, certainly we want students to get exposed to the rigor of AP coursework, but we also want to make sure they're being successful. Another reason why we want to look at how our students are performing, and we want to look at who's getting 3, 4, and 5, is because we know that earning at least a 3 will demonstrate that you have mastered the coursework in some capacity. And we know that experiencing the rigor of the coursework will help better prepare our students for success with their college level work. Furthermore, the students who successfully complete the AP courses have a competitive edge in their college application process. And we also know that in some cases, earning a 3 or higher on an AP exam can result in a student being placed out of the foundation level coursework and advance to the next level. So, with that, it's important to note that the College Board does not decide if a student will get credit for the course or earn AP credit toward the college degree. Each college and university makes its own decision, and they usually base that on like the major. And so while in some cases students can earn direct credits toward their major, in other cases they may get it toward their elective. So as the slide indicates, for those viewing at home, we always encourage our students and parents to visit the AP credit policy search to make sure that they know the minimum required scores and credits. So, Mr. Trentino, if you can just click on that link, and I'll just demonstrate briefly how one might use that. Thank you. If you can, yes. So let's say, for instance, your child wanted to attend Syracuse University. You would just type in Mr. Trentino, Syracuse, or Boston College. So this is pretty intuitive. You would just type in, click on the college or university that you're looking to attend, and it indicates if you received a minimum, as you can see, in most cases, a minimum of 3, 4, some cases 5, but a minimum score of 3 on the art history exam, you would be awarded a total number of 6 credits, and they're indicating for you the equivalent course that you would get credit for. So again, each college, each university has their own criteria, so we encourage our students and their families to check this using this link. And again, at the end of the day, we know that taking these courses and doing well is a good predictor of success in their post-secondary endeavors. So Ms. Eileen Kelly will come up here now and speak to you a little bit more about the additional enhancements that we're committed to and that we're already undergoing at the high school.
Can I just ask a quick question for clarification? I just want to, it might be redundant. On the first slide, we have the number of students enrolled in the AP classes. In 2018, you have 281. Correct? And then the number of exams. So it's the number of students could have multiple exams, correct?
Correct.
And that's what that's why the
Yeah.
distinction in the numbers. Okay. Just want to make sure that that's clear.
There you go. Thank you.
Okay. So this slide outlines for you the AP courses that we have added or that we have spoken about adding since 2013-14 school year. Last year, if you look at the 2018-19 column, we spoke about the addition of AP Research, which is the second course in the AP Capstone Diploma Program. And we also mentioned that we were beginning to explore the addition of an AP World to expand it to a 2-year model. Currently, students take that in 10th grade. So as a result, this year, the administration has worked to identify a teacher who will be taking on a pre-AP World class for 9th graders, which will expand that to a 2-year World program. That teacher, I should say, began attending trainings through the College Board this past November on Conference Day. The teacher will also attend an AP training over the summer, and we'll do some curriculum writing with colleagues in-house to prepare for the addition of that course beginning in September. So that has been added to the curriculum guide for September 2019. Last year, we also discussed that AP Research would be offered to students in grades 11 and 12 who had successfully completed our AP Seminar course. Our students who were wishing to take AP Research as an English credit, which is what they were able to take the seminar course as, had to wait until senior year due to the nature of the English Regents and the 11th grade curriculum. It doesn't really align well with the research course. So most of our students were opting to wait another year until they were seniors so they could take it as an English credit and have it count that way towards graduation. So with that being said, we are anticipating that many students will be electing to take research next year and that we will see growth in that course. When we surveyed the students at the end of their AP Seminar course, so in June, May, 75% of the students indicated that they plan to enroll in AP Research before graduation. Since then, we've also followed up with our counselors at the high school, and they have reported that they're also hearing high interest from the students, or continued high interest from the students, and that students are committed to fulfill the capstone diploma requirements by taking AP Research in their senior year. We will provide more information about this when we start to get some numbers in our January presentation on the course guide. The bottom row is 1920, and so I spoke about the first two components. The bottom two there, as we look to the 2020-21 school year, we are preparing for the addition of 2 additional AP Math courses. We're looking to create a progression of computer science courses for our students. So we currently have an introductory computer science course. We have AP Computer Science Principles, which kind of exposes students to the idea, but not in any one specific coding language. So we are looking to add AP Computer Science A. This course is equivalent to a first semester college level course in computer science, and it focuses on using a Java programming language. So that would give students a 3-year sequence for 10th, 11th, 12th grade if that's something that interests them. The second course that we are investigating adding for the following year would be Calculus BC. Currently in the high school, we offer Calculus AB, and this would be just an extension of that course. It is not necessarily a more difficult course, but it expands on the scope of the course. So they do more topics, and it is also equivalent to a freshman year college calculus course. So that's something that we are beginning to speak with the math department about, beginning to speak with students that would be in that course at that time, to see if there's interest from the students to begin to run that program. We have spoken to some of the teachers who will look to attend a training this summer so that they can begin to expose themselves to the curriculum, and we can get a better idea of what we might need to do to prepare students next year so that they're ready the following year to enroll in that course.
Can you just explain how you all come to the decision of what you're going to explore as a potential new course? Is it just what you feel like would be good for the school, or based on the students that you have and what they're taking currently? Can you just explain that a little bit?
Sure. I think it's a combination of a lot of things, though, and you may want to add to this additionally, but we started computer science because students petitioned us. They were interested in it, and they said, we want this. And so we did an introductory class, and then we added the AP Principles course because it was a nice gateway entry course for students. Now our teacher, Ms. Chalmers, who is instructing students, is saying, you know what, I have a lot of 10th graders that are really interested in this. They're going to take AP Principles next year, but I think that they're going to be looking for something moving beyond that. These are kids who might want to major in these fields when they move beyond Elwood, and so we're trying to plan ahead to meet their needs and to be prepared for when they need that. So I think it's a combination of things. We go to meetings with colleagues from other districts. We hear what other districts are offering too. We like to make sure that we're remaining competitive. So we're also always listening to that. Are most people moving to offering a BC calculus program? Okay, that's something we need to look at maybe. So it's a combination of both meeting the students' needs, their interests, and responding to that, and also then being aware of what other districts are doing.
I have a question about the AP Calculus BC, because currently, right now, you have that AP, mostly our seniors taking. It's their last string of the math before they go into college. So the difference, you talked about it being a border scope, but how would that fit in? I mean, is it something that it would be a choice to take? And what is one more, like I know when you go into college, you either have your science calculus or you have your business calculus. Is it a distinction like that that's giving different tracks to students, so that maybe students who are more interested in the business aspect will go into calculus BC? I'm just looking to see what the opportunities are in developing different interests once they leave the high school. Makes sense.
So yes, to answer the first part of your question, they would choose either AP or BC, and they would both be offered to seniors. Okay. So they would not be enrolling in both. The BC curriculum encompasses all of AB, and then it has some additional topics. It's 4 or 5, I believe. So that's the first part. The second part is, I think that the BC is going to be more of your students who plan to enter engineering, math, those types, physics fields. Yes. Yeah. So I think that those are the students that you'll see looking to take that and to take on that extra challenge. Students that really enjoy math would be the ones that would be most receptive, but it's not necessarily categorized in that way as a majors.
Yeah, the AP Calculus, having 2 children that have taken it, is a very intense, heavy theory kind of class, and it's a lot of material. I was just curious as to how it was directed. And the next question I have, and this is going a little bit off of AP, so what is there offered for students who maybe don't, is there another AP kind of class in a math class that maybe can be offered to bring them up to the AP level, the rigor of a math, but not that intense theory that this calculus has? Because when you go to college, you still are required to take math, and I think that gap in that year, is can be harmful to kids.
So I think that AP statistics meets the needs, not that it's not rigorous, it is, but it's different than calculus. It's different. So for students that are looking to major in more of a humanities field maybe, or for students that want to take multiple AP math courses, that's something that really interests them. That's what we see a lot of our students going into, the AP Stats class, and they really get a lot out of it in that sense. So I think that's for some students. We also added, was it last year, a college algebra class, and the whole goal behind that was to close that gap for students and get them in a fourth-year math class if they weren't planning to take calculus, so that they wouldn't have that break of a year and they would be ready. So the focus of that course is really to prepare students if they have to take a placement exam, if they're going to be attending a community college. And it's also, though, to just make sure that more of our students take 4 years of math. And so we've seen an increase. I don't have a lot of data on that. That's something that we will be monitoring, because that is the goal of that course.
But there's no practical kind of AP calculus, and that's kind of like, I don't know if it's out there.
The other course that they can take is the Advanced Algebra with Financial Applications, and that course is more of like a real world, home loans, mortgages, things like that, kind of with an algebra focus, though.
Okay.
That's what I got.
This data presents us with some things that we are proud of, and we really admire the achievement of our students and the work of our faculty to bring us to this point. So we want to sustain this, and in order to do that, we really have to pause for a minute to take a look at what are the intentional actions that we believe contribute to this. And for us, it first begins with the direction that we're given, which comes from our Board of Education through our mission statement and through the goal setting process. So our mission statement really talks about the individual student achieving success academically, socially, emotionally. And I think that is important that we talk about the individual student, because as we're looking at some of those numbers and we're looking how the numbers are moving in a good direction, those are individual children that we are seeing. Not only are the number of children who achieve the 5 staying there, but it's growing. We're seeing growth in the number 3. So as more children are trying these exams, they're meeting with a level of success that in general colleges would consider to be that the child mastered the material. So it's really important that we become intentional and we think about how does this happen as a system? What are the efforts that we believe are contributing to this? So it does begin with the work of our leaders. And I want to thank Mrs. Krasinski and our directors for the teamwork, and Mr. Cole and Mr. McNamara, because what gets measured gets done is a common phrase in education, and it's about communication and focusing on the things that we believe matter. So it begins with constant conversations, and that happens because our administrators are making time for those conversations with faculty. Mrs. Krasinski calls all of the directors and assistant principals together always, every single month, to plan for the department meetings. So even though we have multiple people working with our faculty, they're all hitting on topics that have gone through the principal's supervision. And we can communicate in common about things that we value and we believe are important. And addressing the needs that faculty bring forward as they're working in more heterogeneous groupings with very advanced coursework is one of the things that we have been talking about over the last few years. So presenting the data is an important part of that, and working with the staff on data mining. Another key piece of that Mrs. Krasinski focuses on is the guidance staff. So a lot of times when we think about how do we raise scores, the guidance staff isn't the first word that comes to mind, but it is a critical part of it. And both in the hiring of the new staff that has occurred, and now in drawing them together as a team. And these are the people who are talking with our students. These are the people that are meeting with teachers to find out how students are doing in courses. And so they play a significant role in helping our students and parents to assess, where should I challenge myself? So we have this vast offering of APs, but we know that there's going to be a point at which you might have diminishing returns. So where should you challenge? How do you build the story arc that Mr. Croda has informed us all on, that's so important for getting ready for college? And how do you make good decisions? And I've had the opportunity to see our guidance counselors as they're meeting with students, to observe them, asking questions, pulling up their grades, and looking at their progress, and then talking about what are you thinking about for next year. And so Mrs. Brzezinski brings the guidance counselors in at every step of the process, including what we've done from September till now, which is when we're starting to plan for next year's courses. We need our guidance counselors input on that as well. So I do think they also are part of the lever that helps to move student achievement. Our faculty are crucial. These are the people who are in the classroom working with our students. These are the people that motivate students. And we all know that when someone believes in us, we can do more. And so the communication of our teachers to our students, how they help them engage in college-level textbooks. If you are in 10th grade and you're in AP World, you are looking at a textbook that a college freshman is using, their college-level books. So how do we present information that students can comprehend, and then faculty coming forward to the principal, to the directors to say, here are some of the things we're experiencing, let's talk about how we address that, and so again, creating space for those conversations and communication, and then bringing that in through the evaluation process as we continue to coach and grow together as an organization. And another important piece of that is staying current. And so when our directors and our administrators, Dr. Foster, myself, as we're all out at our county meetings, this is where we're hearing what is happening in the communities around us, and we want John Glenn to be the best high school on Long Island. So it's important to us that we stay current, and as part of that, Ms. Brzezinski leads a team that goes to a consortium that we meet at Shoreham Wading River High School once a year, and the whole point of that is the AP Capstone program. So all these school districts are coming together so that we can hear what people have experienced, what's working. That's how we came to make our decisions about where to place AP Capstone. And again, that leadership, I do think, creates the conversations that leads to good decision making. And so then when we look to how our students are performing, we believe these are levers that help move that forward. And then as we plan professional development for teachers, there has to be a connection between what teachers are experiencing in the classroom, what they're sharing kids are going through, what information do they need to continue to enhance their practice. So definitely a piece of this is systemic. If we want our students to elect to challenge themselves through open enrollment, then we need a program K-12 that supports that kind of rigor. So, working backwards, the support that we've received from the board for the Teachers College Reading and Writing Project, which is a long-term commitment, of funds, commitment of time, has led to improvements in student reading and writing. And our elementary principals will be coming to talk with you, I believe in January, about the progress of our students in ELA and math. But we believe that that is setting a foundation for students that we're hoping to see the benefits of and in a continued path of improvement. Then what is the alignment between middle school and high school? And Mrs. Brzezinski has led dialogue with Dr. Sapienza. We're now there meeting on a very regular basis in a coordination and transition planning so that we really have a smooth transition from the middle school philosophy into the high school needs. And we're looking at the open enrollment of 8th grade because that's where it all begins. That's the first time the parents hear the message. When they come to the evening presentation, and we encourage them to think about who their children are, what are the needs of this individual learner. So we want that connection that goes through it. It's also encouraging teachers to take the specialized training. They have to spend a week in the summer, and what I think is really admirable about our staff is when they commit to traveling distances on days like Superintendent's Conference Day. So Mrs. Brzezinski reaches out to the staff, coordinates with our directors to encourage our AP teachers. It works through our district office for funding to be able to get our teachers into Manhattan, over to Fordham, wherever the courses are being offered, take advantage of that one day. And AP teachers never want to miss class, right? And that's just, they're so committed to this, and they count by minutes when they lose instructional time. So taking advantage of a day like Election Day is really important. But making that summer commitment. So for the programs that we're preparing, when we say we're exploring it, part of that is we have teachers who have made commitments to attend summer training and in order to prepare. So we think these are a lot of the systemic levers that help us to create programs that enhance learning and that we believe the data supports we are achieving success with. And I think one of the things that I think as a district we can be so proud of is that we're also talking about equity and access. We're talking about what defines a student. Does a single grade define a student? If you have a certain grade in 7th grade, should that exclude you from accelerating in 8th grade, which may then exclude you from so many things down the road in high school? And I think it's so admirable that our mission statement and our actions support a program like this that encompasses so many constituent groups to be successful. The support of our parents, the hard work of our students. You know, it's really many people coming together to allow students to do this. And I wish we could say to you, let's take a look at some of the other districts. AP scores are private. They're not published like Regents exams, like ELA and math exams. And many schools don't engage in this public discussion. And part of it is because AP courses tend to be singular. So there's usually one teacher teaching it, and so when you put up a single score, it can cross into confidentiality of evaluation. So that you will be receiving a breakdown of the tests by subject in your weekly updates. But in terms of general public, we're looking at our aggregate scores. And the news is very good. So, questions?
You can start with Ms. Marcus.
Couple questions on this. I just want to clarify, if you are enrolled in an AP class, it does not mean that you have to sit for the exam, correct?
Yeah.
It's optional? Oh, you do have to? Oh.
Our policy is if you don't sit for the exam, then we can't run the transcript, then we can.
Okay. Okay. So once you sign up, you're taking that exam. Okay, I just wanted to applaud the inclusion of this slide in the presentation, just about encouraging families, students when they're deciding what courses to take. If they care about the college credit associated with the class and the exam, that they look it up to see realistically what are my chances of getting the credit for it, because we do still charge people for the AP exams, correct? So this is an expensive endeavor. So I appreciate that we are informing families and students of everything that they may need to make the decision of what courses they want to take, especially if you do have to sit for the exam. So I do like that. And I guess that's all that I was going to say.
Ms. Weiss.
Highlighting that as a parent who has 2 kids in college and one that is a senior now that has taken APs, I think more so than the philosophy, because what I've experienced is, one year school can have a certain score and the next year they can decide that they change their score. It fluctuates. But the whole purpose, and it's not about the grade, it's about preparing the student and giving them the rigor and the mindset. And we talk about, I have a child in AP Calculus right now, and he was studying for an exam and having some struggles, and really it came down to, it was the wording of the problem and understanding, and that goes back to the Common Core, which now get into that critical thinking and the way, and so I guess my question is, have you seen that driving force of how now we're, I have a younger child who's in the elementary or now in middle school, but how they've learned and how they approach problems, and have you seen that as part of the growth of why these AP scores have increased? I know you don't break them down by grade.
I think it contributes because even though the system that the state rolled out was flawed in terms of how it was implemented, and the fact that it didn't get to move through the grades and everybody had to jump in at once, what we do see is it's coming out through every exam that the state provides. So students are definitely engaging in more critical thinking in math and more language-based problem solving. We also see a change in the Regents exams. We see a change in the length of the stem of the question, in the need for students to analyze text rather than retrieve from memory. So we certainly see that there's a connection through each of it, and it is intentional teaching. So yes, I would also say that contributes to our students handling more rigorous coursework.
So open enrollment always has been like a hot topic, and I thank you for putting out this presentation because it really brings things to clarity. So, for me, I didn't buy into the whole open enrollment at first, and now looking at these numbers, it really negates my debate about it over the years. And so clearly, you're giving children more opportunity to take these exams, and we're seeing success part and part, it's a testament to the strong leadership that we have here, the engagement with the faculty and staff, the constant professional development, the implementation of the AIS services to support the children that may not have belonged there, but they took the jump, and then we are coming in to support them to provide them with success. And clearly it's working, and I hope this kind of puts to rest, the talk that's still out there, because the numbers don't lie. So a job well done, and I appreciate all the hard work and the collaboration with the staff and the buy-in and the constant support for the low and high functioning.
And I'm so glad you mentioned the AIS, because as all of you who have high school students know, every time I get the school messenger with Ms. Krasinski's voice for progress reports and school report cards, there's always a reminder that we have an AIS room available, and it's helping students to understand what that means, because for some students they think, oh, that's extra help. No, it's academic support. And we're so happy, I'm so happy to hear from our building leaders and directors how many of our AP students do stuff in there in our honors level, and that students are taking advantage of that support. So thank you so much for mentioning it.
They're using it as a resource, so I thank you, because that is really something that's new since you've been here.
Good. Odd question.
There you go, that's a new dad. Looking to a gym. So, thank you. So, again, I wasn't sold on it. This started with Mr. Scordo talking about this. I thought it would bring the top down a little bit. I thought, how are these kids going to succeed? Because you not only have to take the class, you have to succeed in the class. And when you look at numbers like this, I'm so proud, impressed, happy for these students that are having opportunities that they would have never had or never been encouraged to have. And it's really exciting. We didn't bring our top down. The top is still the top. And the bottom is coming up. So that's not the bottom, you know what I mean. There's students that wouldn't have taken opportunities, and now they're having opportunities. And a lot of it is the leadership at the top down, and then a lot of it is our staff who's, we're saying you're teaching reading and writing differently in the lower grades. Now you're teaching a whole bunch of different kinds of students in one class, and with each change that we make in the district to try to improve our student experience, the staff really has to change the way they do things. So if we don't, applaud them and tell them, and again, it sounds like they're getting a lot of support from the leadership team, which is great, but that's a big change. I think that when we concentrate just on the grades, the AP grades, we lose also the experience that the AP brings. And there's been a bunch of research that, just taking one AP class increases your likelihood of graduating college within 4 years. One class. So our students are going in with multiple. I know both my daughters took a lot of APs in high school. College was not such a sledgehammer. They're like, we actually have more free time to study than we ever did in high school because of activities and things like that. So the fact that our kids are going to college, and it's not so surprising the amount of work that they have or how they organize their time, I think is really important. The fact that you're collaborating with the middle school. It used to be that high school was a sledgehammer. And it really broke a lot of kids. It discouraged them. So that we're talking about those things is really right on, because that's what's going to make them successful. The only thing that I can see that might be a question or something that we might need to keep in our mind is that we're allowing students to kind of paint their picture by giving computer science and BC Calc and things like that. And there are some students that still don't know what they want to do, don't know their picture that they're painting yet. So, we're offering diversity there, so some students can take the traditional AP English, math, social studies, some kids can kind of specialize, but especially in John Glenn, the scheduling. So just the staff that you need to run all those APs, it's scary that some APs won't run for students that have interest in that because, we have too many choices, and so things get shut out because of lack of enrollment. So that's, yes, Dr. Boston?
Well, when we begin our budget discussions in January, I would like you to please keep that commentary in mind. One of the things that we seek to do is maximizing our staffing to allow that diversity of course offerings to continue. And one of the things that's required is flexibility with class size. And one of the benefits that our students enjoy at John Glenn High School right now is some very attractive class size in AP sections that allow our courses to roll with perhaps smaller than typical numbers. And it's because of what Mrs. Freed just articulated that we continue to recommend that. And whereas we would never come forward at the elementary level and say that we need a class size of 6, we may allow a class size of 6 to take place in order for an AP section to run at John Glenn. So there is some flexibility.
But is that at the expense of maybe having 30 kids in an AP Calc class, or
Where the break takes place is something that we look at very carefully, where we feel it's a manageable course load for a teacher, or when we need 2 sections, and that's a good problem to have. Where we find ourselves having a greater conversation is when we do run the course. So these are the conversations that will develop during budget time, and some of the difficult decisions that we make, coming from the tallies that are established at the high school level.
So you're saying that when you have a class with a size of 6 people, it's because you want to offer AP computer science, but you only have 6 kids interested.
And typically you may start the year with 10 kids interested, and then by the time schedules are finalized and things like that, you may have some very small class sizes.
Okay, but when we do our scheduling in the summer, do we have a bottom number that if we don't meet, then we, like in business law, I know my, we haven't had business law in a couple of years because there hasn't been enrollment in it, and I'm just wondering why that doesn't apply to any.
We definitively use a minimum enrollment before trying to run a course, and that fluctuates a bit depending on the flexibility we have within the budget. But we also look at a track that students are on, so that if it's a next course in a sequence, we would be more apt to offer it so students don't have a disrupted program.
May I also add, this goes back to your question, like how do you know which courses to run? I think adding the new counselor, having our counselors now have FaceTime with students and having those conversations about really making meaningful decisions in January and February about what we want to take for the next year. Spreading the awareness that these decisions then prompt us to make decisions and allocate staff. And so if there's an AP course where 6 students are taking it, it's their capstone course and they're seniors, that will then become a priority, which will then turn into conversations with Mr. Cole, who's the master scheduler, who will then code that first and look at all the singletons and make sure that they don't conflict, because it's a priority, because the discussions happen. Now, business law, if it's an elective and 10 kids are enrolled in that and we have to make those decisions, that may not be a priority, right? They're all important, but those are decisions that we're making, and that's why the counselor is talking with students and families and making sure that they're committed to the coursework the following year, helps us to then prioritize for the scheduling process. And then we also talked about an AP course for students that may run every other year, and then planning the sequence and seeing what they come into the high school with and how to get them there. So being judicious in those decisions. So you can't take it this year, but prepare to take it the following year. So we engage in creative decision making, and that happens with the dialogue and knowing who our students are and what trajectory they're on.
Do we ever get feedback from postgraduates that as to profiles of where the majority of our kids are going into? Are they going into, we offer environmental science, a great AP course? How many of our kids utilize that, or is it just a science where maybe we can offer something of a business nature, like macroeconomics, where maybe a greater percentage of our students are going to the business fields. I'm just trying, do we ever get any sort of, is that even plausible, to get that sort of feedback, to kind of know, to give us some sort of direction down the line of where maybe, because, you know, they are taking the courses that's in front of them as an offering, and that's their selection. It's like I can pick, you know, these courses, so I'm going to take this one, but maybe if there was something else offered that might fit more in line, and I'm just...
I think right now our focus tends to be on their planning. The feedback we often hear is more about these types of courses helped me to be more successful. So we were, you know, that they feel better able to take on college level work, or that they feel it made them competitive in the application process because they had this coursework. And it signals to colleges that you want to push yourself. So I know that's, our counselors are aware of the declared majors, and they're looking at that correlation, but a great question of feedback for students. The other thing that is hard to capture is the vast web that is operating in order to come to that course guide that you're going to see in January. And honestly, it's a 12-month process. And there has to be one conductor of the process. And so Mrs. Brzezinski conducts that process. And what that means is I come into Mr. Cole to ask a question about the master schedule. Mrs. Brzezinski,
I think that this, I'm sorry to interrupt you, I think that the discussion of the scores and how well we're doing, and then the course selection process, which will come in January, and how we use the guidance department, and this is all about guidance. We know that, and we're looking at that, and we're doing great things in that area to congratulate you on your scores, and then to bring that conversation to how do we get kids, and I brought it up about scheduling, so I apologize, but talking about the course catalog and how we help students make those decisions, and bringing guidance in here to give us some information about that too in January, I think are good discussions, but both separate and lengthy, right?
I will say, Ms. Weiss, though, my second year at John Glenn, the juniors at the time reached out to prior alum and has come back. And we did a roundtable discussion, I don't know if it was shared decision-making or student council, to pick our brains to see where we were in college. Were we struggling with math courses because we skipped out on senior math? You know, we were allowed to. Should we have tried harder for the APs and went into college with that extra credit? So I think it's been done. I don't know if it's fruitful enough for them to continue to do it.
Yeah, and I agree with Julia, you know, it is a separate discussion, we could be here for hours on it, it's a very fruitful discussion. You know, the AP scores, like I said, they're wonderful. And again, going back to my parent hat and saying that I have children who might not have ventured into taking certain AP courses because of that, you know, this is a really hard class, or, you know, I have a kid that's taking, you know, both AP math courses now, which is a very heavy workload, but is challenging because of the rigor and the preparedness for college, which is really the objective here. And so, and being successful at it, you know, getting there, it's a journey. So I really, you know.
Thank you, and thank you for the presentation. Congratulations on the results. Great job. Group effort. Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Wilkinson, for starting that.
And in conclusion, thank you to the board for taking a leap of faith with the prior administration to take on this initiative, which has borne some real fruit and brought forward some real positive results and opportunities for our students. It was really a pleasure to review these data with you and show you the success that's being enjoyed.
I have one comment.
Sure.
So much for in conclusion.
I know. No, it's just bothering me, so I want to clarify or add to that. You know, the comment of the initial fears of open enrollment, bringing some of the top down, and we're talking about that we brought some of the bottom up. I don't even think that it's the bottom up. It's allowing students that have varied talents in different subjects and interests to not be slated away from something.
Right.
So it's not even that people that are challenged across the board as students are having to get dragged up. It's, you can be lower in a subject and have an interest and
Exactly.
a passion, and you're going to be one of the higher students in that class. So just some clarity that it allows more opportunity and choice for students, which is always a good thing.
Mrs. Marcus, I'll share with you that one of the first questions the Board of Education asked me during the interviewing process is, how do you raise the bar when you enter an organization? And I said, very high expectations. And I think this is a model that when we enter the program with the expectation that every child can succeed in a high-intensity setting, it lends to that success. And I think that's exactly the tone that the board set years ago when we opened the enrollment program to the AP Corso, and our leadership and our faculty has helped them to achieve. Do you have final words?
Well, I do really want to identify the trust in the organization, because I think that's like an esoteric term that you don't really put out there, but it's so important to speak to the staff and say, this is what we're doing, this is what the district believes is important, we know the value of it, and we're going to help you get there. So not worrying about the scores, just doing what's right for kids, letting them take risks, engaging in an open dialogue. I think there are two ways to roll something out. We're doing this and you have to do it and you don't want to hear your feedback, or here's the value and why we ought to do it, and we thank you for your commitment to it. Let us know how it's going, and then we revise and tweak and support. So I just want to thank all the people that are part of it and the staff for just trusting the leadership team and trusting that to bring the process to fruition.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but going back to the students and to the teachers, you really have to owe the teachers too, because that support, I'm throwing back
that's
at
what
you.
you're saying.
I mean, there are many kids who will be in that course, and that support in this high school environment and in the structure of that teacher saying, I know you can do this, I know what you're capable of, is invaluable. I've experienced it as a parent, I've seen it just as a community member, and again, it's getting them a confidence level that when they go out into whatever they do, whether they go to college or to work, it really gives them that, I can do that, I can tackle this, and that's a invaluable lesson.
We're on the same page, I think, all of us, yeah. We're your cheerleaders. Okay, so I think we're gonna move on.
Go.
Yes.
I'll be back in about 8 hours.
Ladies,
Thank you very much for your
you get permission to leave? No, you guys. No.
Somebody else in the audience, we feel better about ourselves. Anybody?
My husband's at home glued to this, don't worry.
We have 6 viewers. I don't know who the other 5. Well, one's me.
Well, one's Rich.
One's me. Jean, that's 2. Lorraine.
Okay, let's move on, Let's not try to guess who's watching. Good night, and thank you again.
Hi, Carrie.
So, I believe we look forward to accepting a donation. If you'd like to talk about that, Mrs. Marcus?
Yes, so we would like to say thank you to the Elwood Middle School PTA that donated 18 books, estimated value $200, to the Elwood Middle School Library. Thank you to those parents that run the PTA, and thank you to all the parents that donate through various ways to the PTA.
Excellent. Can I have a motion to accept the donation? Mr. Tamio, second by Mrs. Marcus, all in favor? 5-0. Thank you to the PTA as always. Big supporters. Okay, we're up to the consent agenda. Can I have a motion to accept the consent agenda? Mrs. Manuelito, seconded by Mrs. Weiss. Questions or comments? Seeing none. Mrs. Marcus, a vote? Consents, 5-0. Okay. We had questions, we got them all answered already. So we are going to move on to policy, which is taken separately, and this policy is pretty easy. We made adjustments in this policy. They're all rates for salaries, and they are contingent with the New York State change in minimum wage. So it's really not really a change, a huge change in the policy. Can I have a motion to accept the policy? Mrs. Mamalito, second by Mrs. Weiss. All in favor? 5-0. Okay. So you ready, Jean, with the microphone? We're up to our second remarks. Okay, can I have a motion to adjourn, please? Mrs. Mamalito, second by Mrs. Weiss. All in favor? 5-0. Thank you, everyone.